In his book, The Seven Basic Plots, Christopher Booker delves into a bit more detail than Vonnegut and lays out 7 different story types. In overcoming the monster, the hero sets out to defeat an evil force, which threatens them and/or their homeland. When going from rags to riches, our poor hero acquires things such as power, wealth, or love before losing it all and gaining it back after growing as a person. The hero in a quest often has some companions, and they set out to acquire an important object or to get to a location, facing many obstacles and temptations along the way. Sometimes the hero goes to a strange land and, after overcoming the threats it poses to him or her, returns with new knowledge and experience. Comedies have a happy character with a cheerful ending, but our hero in this case endures some kind of conflict that becomes more and more confusing along the way. Thankfully, everything is usually explained in a single clarifying event. Tragedies befall a hero with one major character flaw or great mistake, which is ultimately their undoing. Their unfortunate end evokes pity at their folly and the fall of a fundamentally good character. And finally, an important event can force the main character to change their ways, often making them a better person. These are just examples, of course, and many stories probably could fit into more than one of these types. They are, however, a useful framework for evaluating what general kind of story you might be trying to tell. Okay, it's true. Working in government is a little different than those movie plots we just showed you. But you work with other people. Odds are you can find details in your work and the data you are analyzing to tell a story that will mean something to them. What's important to doing that is context, who you are talking to, what their focus and interests are, and what you will be asking of them. We'll get into this in the next section, but before we move on, let's look at a real example of storytelling with data. Fans of the classic story, The Princess Bride, which we showed a few slides earlier, might recall a very famous line about never engaging in land war in Asia. Unfortunately for Napoleon Bonaparte, he was born long before that book or movie ever came out. And in 1812, he undertook a now infamous march to invade Russia with around 422,000 men. With every day of the march, more and more men died or deserted. By the time it reached Moscow, Napoleon's army had dwindled to 100,000 men, less than a quarter of the size it had been when they started, much of it ravaged by typhus. The army beat a hasty retreat after things went very badly in Moscow, but then suffered another disastrous blow when almost half of the remaining survivors were killed during the botched crossing of the Berezina River. Of that original 422,000 number, only around 10,000 returned alive. During the army's retreat, the winter temperatures dropped precipitously. French civil engineer Charles Joseph Minard put all the details of the march and retreat into amazing context with this graphic. The march starts on the left with the size of the army represented by the thickness of the beige band. Upon retreating from Moscow, at the far right, the thinning black band shows the army's dwindling size. And connected to that black band, at the very bottom, is a chart of the temperature as the army retreated. During that time, temperatures plunged from 0 to negative 37.5 degrees Celsius with very little context. And even if you can't read French, this graphic tells a grim and compelling story, packing in a rich, complex set of information.